Good evening, everyone. My name is John Campbell. I'm the Vice Chair of the, I should say good afternoon, Vice Chair of the Budget Committee. And under normal circumstances, we would have three members here today, Councillor Justin DeChano, Councillor James Pasternak, and me. We are just awaiting the arrival of Councillor Pasternak. We were down at City Hall today where the Mayor received Prime Minister Trudeau. He then made a speech and had a bit of a press conference in front of the assembled masses at the rotunda at City Hall. All the city staff were there, councillors were there, and Councillor Pasternak left probably about the same time that I did, so I'm expecting him shortly. Councillor DiCiano is out with a strep throat, laryngitis, and he's not going to be able to join us. So we'll give Councillor Pasternak another 5 minutes or so before we proceed, okay? And also, if you haven't registered for your deputation today, if you could do that with the staff down here, that would be welcome. And if there's anyone who's not registered but that would like to speak at the end of the list, then you may do so as well. So just, Councillor Pasternak has arrived. Thank you, Councillor Pasternak, from Ward 10. I'm John Campbell from Ward 4, Tobico Centre. I'm just going to call the meeting to order and ask if there are any possible declarations of possible conflict of interest. Seeing none. Then this evening we're happy to receive your comments and observations on the City of Toronto budget and budget process. We have a list of 7 speakers at this point, and 8 speakers, and I will call on Leela Karim, the Managing Director of North York Arts, to speak first. Hi, Leela. You have 5 minutes. Lila. After which we will have questions if necessary.
Okay, terrific. Thanks so much. Now, we did have a video presentation, but we just found out that it's too new for the system, so we're going to do an old school presentation. Plus, we have handouts, so my team here will take care of that. So, good afternoon, members of the Budget Committee. My name is Leela Karim, and I am the Managing Director of North York Arts. Thank you for this opportunity to speak and for your ongoing support of the arts community in Toronto. North York Arts is a local arts service organization currently being incubated by the Toronto Arts Foundation and is designed to address the needs and interests of artists, arts organizations, residents, and residents in North York by providing arts and culture programming and services. We work in collaboration with city councillors, the City of Toronto's Culture Division, artists, arts groups, residents, and local businesses. We connect with our sister LASSOs to meet the Community Arts Action Plan mandate passed by Council in 2008. And since 2011, North York Arts has built a strong audience base of attendees and participants, over 100,000, to attend our various programs, events, and workshops in North York. And recently, due to the increased city arts funding in 2015, we achieved the following. We formally established our new hub space at the Toronto Centre for the Arts to provide increased accessible programs and services to the community. We also produced and presented new community arts programs. I'll just name a few because there's a long list. The North York Mural Program in Ward 10, which celebrated the work of local artists, the history of the community, and it revitalized the old bell boxes of the area. The Creative Foundation Program in Ward 33. It was an opportunity for youth and seniors to collaborate and connect through visual arts. And the Youth Dance Program in Ward 9. And this program supported building the confidence of the youth and encouraging them to work together as a team. The benefits of the arts sector to the City of Toronto are clearly outlined in the 2011 Creative Capital Gains Report. However, I'd like to share some facts researched by the Toronto Arts Foundation, and it's also in your package. 97% of Torontonians see at least one benefit of the arts to the City of Toronto. That could be tourism, highlighting cultural diversity, improving the city's economy. 85% of Torontonians see at least one benefit to the arts to their neighborhood. That it makes the neighborhood a greater place to live. It builds a stronger sense of community. It supports local businesses. The nonprofit arts sector brings over $8 in earned revenues for each $1 invested by the city. So in my opinion, that's a great investment and achieves a maximum impact. So again, I'm here to thank the Budget Committee for their support to the arts to date. And I also ask the committee to continue on this momentum and follow through with delivering on the 2003 Culture Plan for the Creative City to increase arts funding to $25 per capita in 2017, including the confirmation of the identified $5 million arts funding enhancement for 2016. And I also asked the committee to endorse the local arts service organization business plan already presented to the city. This increased funding to the arts and culture sector will allow arts organizations like North York Arts to continue to build its services, to support the North York arts community, and leverage arts activity outside the downtown core. In closing, I'd like to share a quote from a North York community member at our Count Me In Focus group, which took place in 2015. The arts are a very big part of life and our world. Without the arts, the world would be a very sad, bland place to live. Life is art, it's everywhere. And that's it. Thank you very much for your time.
Very good, thank you, Lila. Any questions, Councillor Pasternak?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Based on a secure source of funding, have you been able to accommodate requests, all the requests that have come through your office, or are there times where there's insufficient funds and you've had to say no to various initiatives?
Well, that's an excellent question, Councillor Pasternak, because we are in high demand and we're very popular now. As you know, we are an organization that's 4.5 years old. We are celebrating our 5th anniversary this year. And so because of that, and North York being such a wide net in terms of community and population residents, we are at that, how can I say, that tipping point where there's huge demand for our services, and we're trying our very best to accommodate that. But of course, the increased funding for the arts will help secure and maintain the momentum that we have been building over the last 4.5 years.
Okay. No, thank you very much, and thank you for your good work in North York. Certainly, you've been transformative when it comes to the arts in Ward 10.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Just like to welcome Mayor Tory from City of Toronto. Recently arrived, having met with Prime Minister Trudeau earlier today. Mayor Tory's been attending a number of these public deputations, anyone I think that he can attend on the budget to hear from the residents of Toronto. So the next speaker is Malika Aweri. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Ani Bojo Sego, Amelie Gad Haskwe Maskwe, Malika Wairi, the woman who walks through the light, Haudenosaunee Mohawk Mi'kmaq First Nations. Thank you for taking time to listen to my deputation this afternoon. I'm both an inaugural Toronto Arts Council Cultural Leader Lab Fellow and a recipient of the first ever Toronto Arts Council's Indigenous Arts Project grant, which was launched this year due to increased funding in 2015 in the arts. I'm also a spoken word artist, musician, curator, and hip hop arts educator. I want to share just from a personal experience that for community artists, the struggle is real, but being Indigenous adds additional barriers. This, Taranto or Tagadon, where the trees meet the water, the gathering place, carries the cultural imprints of my Haudenosaunee ancestors. Today, we have the 4th largest Indigenous population of any major city in Canada. My people inherently see art as life and life as art. There is no separation, and yet we are struggling to live. Therefore, it's a struggle to create. Arts funding has provided me with the opportunity to create a collective called Red Slam, which for 6 years has utilized hip hop as medicine to engage Indigenous and non-Indigenous youth through the arts across the city, province, and country. Arts funding support means I'm able to utilize the arts to address recommendations cited in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report, which impacts all Canadians, with partnerships with the Toronto District School Board, TDSB Arts, the Aboriginal Education Centre, and the Art Gallery of Ontario. As a cultural arts leader, the arts has become more about cultivating the next generation of artists as opposed to me creating my own works. This is the Indigenous way of always looking 7 generations to the past and 7 generations into the future. The future is therefore now. I want the imprint which I leave in the city to imbue the same legacy of artistic resilience and brilliance and the capacity to be a vehicle for change like those of my ancestors before me. However, while it is true that Red Slam Collective has been able to create some fabulous programming for communities throughout the years, we've not been able to come close to the investment levels required to meet identified needs and truly sustain our collective and support community-engaged artists. Some specific challenges are that there's just so much of a demand for what we do, but we don't have enough resources to supply that demand, particularly among our youth across the city and in the downtown core. Skyrocketing costs of rent in Toronto creates a critical shortage of accessible and affordable creative and performance spaces. And further, insufficient funding for the arts is compounded by other challenges affecting Toronto today, such as affordable housing, reliable transit, available daycare. Our artists have to live in this city. I understand that according to the national research, despite much higher than average levels of formal education, Canadian artists earn much lower than the average income. In Canada, the average artist earns $15,000 less than the average Canadian worker. This puts us well below the low economic cutoff. Put this in the context that the economic impact of the cultural sector adds billions of dollars to Toronto's GDP. It is in all our interests to keep our artists here, living here, working here, and contributing to the life and vibrancy of Toronto. So in closing, as Métis leader Louis Riel once said, "My people will sleep for 100 years, but when they awake, it will be the artists who give them their spirits back." Let's awaken the spirits of our citizens through the expansion of investing in the arts today. Chimigwech Nawe.
Thank you very much. Councillor Pasternak, any questions? If you don't, I do. No? Okay. So thank you very much. So your organization is called?
Red Slam Collective.
Red Slam Collective.
Yes.
And how many individuals comprise?
We have about 20 members that are part of the collective because it's hip-hop based, so graph writers, breakers, MCs, and DJs. And then some of us do the arts education piece, and some of us deal with the music and performance.
So you get funding from how many sources?
We usually go to Toronto Arts Council for project grants, and Ontario Arts Council for Aboriginal Artists in the Schools grants,
Okay.
and often for Canada Council if it's touring related or presentation related.
So is it pretty much all project-based, or is there an ongoing stream of funding?
It's all project based because it's very difficult for collectives to actually get like multi-year funding to build sustainable organizational work. So we do a lot of partnerships, which allows us to be able to extend our programming year after year.
And so you're doing work in the high schools?
We're doing work with the TDSB, yes, in the high schools and the
Both
elementary.
Councillor and I, Pasternak and I are both former trustees of the TDSB, so we like to hear that.
Okay, awesome.
And how many schools are you working in, for example?
Usually we hit about 50 schools per year
Good, good.
in Toronto, and then we also work in Ontario.
Now, you made the reference that the funding was insufficient, given that the possibilities are sort of endless, I suppose. However, the funding has stepped up in the last few years. So, I mean, I would suggest to you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that 2015 funding superseded that of 2014 and 2013.
Absolutely. As I mentioned, it's the reason why I'm a Toronto Arts Council Cultural Leaders Lab Fellow, because of that funding, as well as receiving the new Toronto Arts Council Indigenous Project Grant. We're looking forward to that initiative this year.
And just for my own education, you said we're the fourth largest Indigenous community in Canada.
With we have the fourth largest Indigenous population in a major city in Canada.
And so that would be behind Winnipeg and
Montreal and I believe Vancouver.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your deputation today. Appreciate it.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
All right. So next we have Dusha Sritharan. I hope I said that right. Good afternoon from the Toronto Environmental Alliance. Say what you can. I think just turn it on and.
Hello?
That's working.
Okay,
Great.
great.
Super.
Thank you so much, councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Dusha Sridharan, and I work with the Toronto Environmental Alliance. T has over 50,000 supporters across all of the wards in the city. I have two key messages for councillors today. This budget fails to invest in 4 key areas that will help improve the environment and save us money in the long run. We need to use new revenue sources to fund necessary environmental infrastructure. Let me begin with where the budget fails the environment. First, there's no money to avoid a TTC fare increase. We need to reduce car use not just to deal with congestion and reduce poverty, but also to improve air quality and reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. We want to encourage people to use the TTC, so raising fares each year discourages the people who are already doing the right thing. Second, there is no new money for more tree planting or for taking care of existing trees. In 2008, Council committed to a plan to improve Toronto's tree canopy, which is vital to keeping the city cool during heat waves and soaking up floodwaters. The mayor committed to planting more trees during the 2014 election, yet the budget does nothing to increase tree planting. Rather, the tree maintenance budget is also cut in the proposed budget. As well, the proposed budget fails to get the city back on track to meeting its 2008 timetable to increase Toronto's tree canopy. Third, there is no money to meet a council commitment to hire the staff needed to prepare Toronto for climate change. In July 2014, Council adopted a host of recommendations aimed at building a resilient city. These recommendations included hiring new staff and public engagement activities that are worth $1.35 million. Last year, $250,000 was set aside to hire on new staff. This year, there are no new funds. Fourth of all, there is no money to provide even minimal inspection and maintenance for Toronto's ravines. Toronto ravines are important recreational spaces and green infrastructure. During floods, they channel water to the lake, minimizing property damage. The rest of the time, they provide important green spaces that Torontonians and wildlife rely on. Yet, the proposed budget could not find $624,000 to help park staff to do the minimal maintenance that it requires to our ravines. These are just 4 examples where this proposed budget undermines the environment and Canada's global commitments towards creating a low-carbon future, but there are many more. We need to invest our taxes into more transit, more trees, nurturing our ravines, and preparing the city for climate change. We need to find a way to invest in these green assets, which are fundamental to ensuring that the value of our economic and social assets are maintained. So why aren't these initiatives being funded? Because we are caught up in a circular argument. Many people say we should raise property taxes, citing the fact that Toronto has the lowest property tax rate of all GTA municipalities. Others are concerned about how property tax increases will impact some of the homeowners who are already struggling to make ends meet. But both sides are right. It's time that we move beyond this simplistic discussion of revenues. T joins a growing number of residents and organizations that are saying it's time that the city starts using the revenue sources that the province made available through the City of Toronto Act. These can include things like the vehicle registration tax or the tobacco alcohol taxes and entertainment taxes. We urge Council to move as quickly as possible to use these new revenue resources. But as you know, other organizations are already calling on Council to use these potential sources to fund other vital city programs, especially actions around poverty reduction. Put simply, even if the city used all the revenue tools it currently has access to under the City of Toronto Act, there would still not be enough to meet all the commitments made in 2015. It's time City Council asks the province to change the City of Toronto Act to allow the city to have a municipal income tax or a municipal sales tax. These would allow Toronto to raise the money it needs to maintain vital social and environmental infrastructure. Let's end this current cycle of inaction. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Councillor Pasternak has a question or two.
Sure.
Yes, no, thank you very much for coming in. Mr. Chair, I'm just wondering whether I could turn to a member of our finance team to respond to a couple of the comments that were made. Certainly references to a diminishing of the expansion of our tree canopy deserves a response, as well as funding of our tree maintenance budget lines, and of course our work on the ravine strategy. Can you maybe enlighten us on some of the numbers that? Is your mic on?
You were able to hear that?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. Anything further?
I sat on the Parks and Environment Committee for 4 years, and one of the key themes that came up in the last council was extreme weather.
Yeah.
occurrences and our response, our ability to respond and build a resilient city. Have you looked at some of those staff reports and council's approval of those strategies?
Yes, we have, and I know part of the Transform TO strategy is also looking at how the city will improve these initiatives, but I think it's to keep top of mind that there are certain commitments already made by council, and we just want to make sure that the funding that was committed is brought through.
No, fair enough.
And of course, you're aware that this is still the process of the budget, and thus the deputation has validity because there are additional monies and enhancements that will come to the presented budget, and the final outcome of that budget may well address some of your questions and comments.
And that's what we hope to see, so
Okay,
thank you.
very good. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
All right, the next speaker I have is Juliana Lombardi. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Juliana Lombardi, and I am the youth worker with the Supervised Alternative Learning Program with Monsignor Fraser Northeast. Currently, we are located in Holy Redeemer Catholic School, which is in Ward 24. The SAL program is for students aged 14 to 18 who are disengaged from their home schools for a variety of reasons, including victimization, addiction to gaming, mental illness, and physical diagnoses. This is just to name a few. Our students are usually at risk from dropping out of school, but with the outreach program that we offer, we're able to re-engage them in the SAL community with the hope of getting them back into their regular schools. The primary SAL goal is always to give students a time to address mental health concerns through counseling, prior to continuing with their educational pathway. Prior to SAL, which was February 2011, these students would have been high school dropouts and eventually would have been a burden on our system. But thankfully, since schooling to 18 was mandated by the Ministry of Education, we have been able to give these students opportunities that they would normally not have. As you may be aware, I am here to discuss our morning meal nutrition program that you graciously already support for us. The funding we are allowed has been a blessing to engage our students through their stomachs. As you know, youth love to eat. Students feel they are ready to tackle any dilemma when their bellies are full. Our nutrition program is quite unique and innovative. Our students are learning life skills, including menu planning, budgeting, shopping, specifically coupon shopping, using some of the new technology, and preparing meals, and the courage to invite others in our host community to share prepared meals with us. During our meal times, we are able to have roundtable discussions and addressing topics that they struggle with, such as body image issues, unhealthy addictions, negative food-related behaviors, and the importance of food safety and cleanliness. Creativity inspires our students to design meal ideas for everyone's palate, including vegan, vegetarians, meat lovers, and fishitarians, as each mealtime is inclusive by producing all types of alternative dishes. Although we still offer your typical cereal and pancakes, we also teach our students how to think outside the box by creating meals that they would normally try at home. We have taught our students how to make dishes that are compromised of too many steps, and simplicity is affordable and just as nutritious. We find that our students, we'll lose them if we use recipes that are way too long. Menus are prepared with student and staff input prior to ingredients being purchased. Students are always encouraged and eager to bring in recipes from their diverse backgrounds for the rest of our community to experiment cooking. We have students who struggle with unhealthy eating patterns and body image. Therefore, we have found that by offering students an educational opportunity within our classroom and with the homebound students, they learn about food, the food they are ingesting, specifically fast food, versus a meal they can prepare in their homes using a minimal of ingredients, has been quite the eye-opener for our students. Also, being able to discuss labels with our student population and how ingredients they cannot pronounce has much more effect on them, specifically with how their brains are wired and the medications that they're taking for depression, schizophrenia, and the other mental health issues they're dealing with. In addition, typically we serve 8 to 10 students a day. However, on Wednesdays, which was today, we tend to have 15 plus students and their parents attend our site. And during workshop Wednesdays, we have speakers in to discuss how certain medications and certain foods align with their brain. We also celebrate holidays. For example, we just had 12 Christmases from around the world by preparing meals that different cultures consume in their countries, which takes a lot of the stigma around culture and foods away from our students. Our program is offered to everyone who participates in it. We encourage parents to attend our meal times, and since we are very inclusive, we ensure that we have an allergy-free environment, including we create meals that are for lactose intolerant, not only just peanut friendly. And that, for example, we had to come up with an alternative to pizza, because as you know, youth really enjoy pizza. We call it Papa Roca, which has no cheese in it and no sauce, because we do have students who struggle with acidic issues. Our staff and students and volunteers in our program are we're
Julianne,
very blessed.
Could I just ask you to wrap it up, please?
Sorry.
Thanks.
There are certain challenges we face, including students who want to cook certain dishes which cost a little more. We figured out ways to deal with that. I would like the opportunity just to talk about an anecdotal. I have many students who are homebound, and the goal is to get them out of their house into our classroom, so they feel like they belong somewhere. And this young man, I couldn't get him out of his house for any reason, and his mom was able to took him to a psychiatric appointment, and on the way she thought, let's just stop in. I had to encourage him to get out of the car, and we got him into the classroom by using food as the motivator, and that. So,
I'll ask you that we're a little bit past the time.
Okay.
Can you just
So therefore,
final-
I would like to thank you so much, because we couldn't do this without you, without the funding, without you helping us. I know you don't see the kids, and it's hard for you to understand, it may be a little difficult, but I want to thank you for all that you do and continue to do for us.
Thank you. Councillor Passanek?
Thanks very much for coming in. It seems to me when I hear deputations regarding the student nutrition program that collegiality and team building and skills enhancement are the key themes in the deputations, as opposed to reducing poverty or feeding hungry kids. Would you say that those themes are preeminent at your school, or would you say there's a balance between the two?
I would say in our program, they're preeminent, and we do other things besides just the nutrition program. Like at Christmas, we had an adoptive family where the staff put money together, and we picked some of our families to give them gift cards to No Frills and Walmart. So I think we have more so than a regular school, because that's what we deal with. We deal with the kids who, because of poverty, aren't getting the medications, aren't getting the services they need to continue on. And so we offer a little bit of that with your support.
And certainly responsible food choices is another
Yes,
theme,
specific.
which you touched on in your presentation.
Yes, specifically with their medications.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much.
Good. Thank you for coming in today.
You're very welcome.
All right, so the next individual I have is Catherine Soplet, member of Peel Poverty Action Group. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. Catherine Soplet, Peel Poverty Action Group. I am here today to thank the Budget Committee for the public meetings and to support the advocacy of commitment to community for full funding of the TO Prosperity Toronto Poverty Reduction Strategy. The purpose for my being here today is not to talk about the Toronto budget, but rather to talk about programs and resources available outside of the Toronto budget, which would help the City of Toronto to leverage attainment of the objectives that are set out in the Toronto Poverty Reduction Strategy. So on October the 20th, I made a deputation to the Executive Committee at the City of Toronto and on item EX 9.5, and the resources external to the city which help reduce poverty are parents reaching out grants from the Ministry of Education, which deploy in public schools, and the ask of the City of Toronto to support a petition to the House of Commons to reopen the 2010 Federal Poverty Reduction Strategy as a way to influence discourse at the federal level on a federal poverty reduction plan. So we know that there was a change in government, and subsequently we have a Canadian poverty reduction strategy which is in the works. So the Parents Reaching Out grants boost literacy and student achievement in schools, and it helps parents to settle. In the context after the federal election of spikes of refugee settlement with the welcoming of the Syrian refugees, settlement workers in schools who help the deployment of Parents Reaching Out grants in the schools, their workload is increased. And so the third request is to petition the federal government to restore levels of settlement sector funding with a focus on the settlement workers in school who also work in the libraries, so that people are able to bridge their language and their credentials and participate in the market. Nothing is faster fix to poverty than a job. The view of the new Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, was expressed in February 2014 when he addressed the Federal Liberal Biennial Convention. He said there is a role for the federal government to support public education without impinging upon the jurisdiction of the constitutionality of public education residing with the provinces. And so the settlement workers in school being funded to deploy the provincial Parents Reaching Out grants satisfies the supports that are required and respects the jurisdictions. In June of 2013, the effects and impacts, the negative effects and impacts of the slashes to settlement sector were set out in a letter from the Canadian Council for Refugees. It was a letter to the then Minister of Citizenship and Immigration to say, you have slashed so much that you are now hitting the boom. The second ask of the deputation in October 20, they signed the petition to the federal government. I just want you to know that subsequently the Peel District School Board was approached. They were notified that the presentation was made to the City of Toronto. Peel District School Board has signed the petition. It's been minuted in their minutes. I have documents here for the clerk, and I shall send a digital document for filing with the clerk after this meeting.
Okay, so thank you very much for your commentary. Any questions? No questions. Thank you for coming today. Next speaker I have is Fiola Khan. There's no rush.
It's a workout.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Glad you could make it.
Thanks, I just finished school.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you. So we've got 5 minutes, after which there may be a question or two, okay?
Okay.
Great.
So, good afternoon. My name is Fiola Khan, and I work for Safe Schools, and my site is Silverview. And just to put my job in a nutshell, there's 110 high schools in Toronto District School Board. There are 9 suspension and expulsion programs across the city. Every single student that gets kicked out of school or suspended comes to one of our 9 programs across the school board. I should not have run down the stairs. My role is the math and science department head across these 9 sites, and I also do the nutrition program. So each of our sites gets funding from Food Share, and we service these wonderful students who are at risk and are hungry. And they come to school because sometimes this is their only meal for the day, and it is part of our non-academic programming that has been an initiative and part of policy implementation since our government has implemented this in 2008 as referendum and policy initiatives. So what Food Share has done for us has given us this funding to feed these kids. And in our particular program, just up here at Yonge and Finch, one of the 9 sites, I work with a great team of a child and youth worker, a social worker, and a psychologist, and 2 staff. So we can program up to 16 students and feed them pretty much a morning meal and a hot lunch. And our site, we don't have a stove, we don't have an oven, but we are feeding them jerk chicken, we are feeding them, you know, pasta dishes, we are feeding them Guyanese meals, Trinidadian meals, all sorts of meals on 5 hot plates. We share the building facility with another school program who has a kitchen, so we'll sometimes bigger meals, like we did a full Thanksgiving turkey, string beans, mashed potatoes, you name it, and a full spread. A teen mom this semester, every single day, and our whole team is up there. They see us day in and day out whenever they call us up, and they're like, "How do you do it with these young adolescent teens who come to school?" You know, we had some snow days, and they showed up for school. They're like, "What's on the menu?" And we're like, "Okay." So I just wanted to highlight that that's what we do with this money. I do the shopping. I hate the grocery store, but I'm in there, Monday, Tuesdays, and they all know us. They're like, "What are the kids eating this week?" And they're like, "Wow, we should be over there for lunches and breakfast." So it really serves the kids well, and they're in there. Part of it is the academics. We have to do student engagement is a huge deal for us. A lot of them are coming in with criminal charges. They're in and out of court systems. There's a lot of, what we do on a day-to-day basis is key, and getting foods in their belly is what is their carrot. Like it's what gets them in there. And I can't thank you guys enough. So help us. Thank you.
So is this section 23?
No, it's alternative schools, safe schools.
Oh, okay.
Totally different from sections.
And how many students are in that school? How many are you dealing with at any? You mentioned 16 or
16.
16.
9 sites across the city, and it's all suspension expulsions only.
Right, and so they're in there for a period of only like a matter of months.
Full semesters.
Oh, full semester.
Full
okay.
semesters, and short-term suspensions are up to 20 days.
Right.
So every high school will get short-term and long-term suspensions, which are full semesters, and then expulsions, which are full semesters, and then year-round.
And so are you saying there's a higher propensity of these students to come from low-income families? Is that?
Mostly, yeah.
Mostly?
Yes.
Okay. And you provide, did you say 3 meals, or you said?
Morning meal and lunches, so
Morning and
dismissal
lunch,
is
hot lunch.
2:30, 3 p.m.
Very good, okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
And, I feed them well. I'm like,
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah.
And in terms of the funding that you've been doing this for how many years?
this is my 4th year with Safe Schools.
And has the funding been, is it sufficient? Is it steady? Has it been rising? Is it, what do you?
It is, I'll be
It's
blunt.
necessary.
It's necessary. It's almost inadequate. We are always asking the office for more funding. And they're just like, you get what you get, and you just have to buy what's on sale.
Right.
And no name brand. And I'm just like, you know what? I do the nutrition course. I eat pretty well. And I'm like, we got to do food labels. And if you want us to feed them a healthy meal, and if you look at what the ingredients lists are, and you want them to have a proper meal, like sometimes it's just going to cost $1 or $2 more. Like, I'm going to buy organic apples versus, something that's garbage, or better quality meat versus something that's, not so good for them. And if it's sometimes, I've got kids, I had to deliver, we just had a pregnancy teen who was in a shelter over the holidays, so we put food in a cab, and we just sent food home for her and her baby over the holidays.
Right.
We're like, fill it up.
Okay, good. Thank you very much for your
Welcome.
presentation. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Next speaker we have is Gary Wood. You don't need to run down the stairs. That's good afternoon.
That energy I do not have right now.
Good afternoon. So
Good afternoon, how are you?
You know the drill. We have 5 minutes, and then might be some questions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Afternoon.
Hi, my name is Gary Wood. I'm a parent of 2 at R.J. Lang Elementary Middle School. I am also the chair of the school council and a parent volunteer within the school. I'm also proud to say that I am the nutrition program coordinator over at RJ Lang. We located in Ward 23, and our program is designed as a morning program. We serve approximately 500 kids each day. We decided at the very beginning of the year that we were going to provide this program to everybody who could contribute and who could not contribute to the program, so that there's nobody left out. Where am I? Sorry. Through the program, we assure that everybody at least gets one good, healthy meal. We receive funding from the City of Toronto, which we were really thankful for. Plus, we get money from Ontario Ministry of Children and Youth Services. Plus, we ask a request of a small donation from the families through the school term, which is the fall, the winter, and the spring. Our program is very fortunate to have volunteers come in from a local church to help restock the bins for the meals each day for the following day. Not only does the program provide a clearly healthy meal for those who come without a meal during the day, we make sure that everybody does get one. Therefore, especially with the volunteers coming in, the children really feel that something cares about them because they get to see what has been prepped for them each day, and they're making them happy. We see this noticeably because the fact of students say thank you to the volunteers when they come out and see them in the hallways walking down. Each kid will come up to a volunteer and say, thank you very much for putting that together for us. I've had a few students that I don't even know in the school, which I've been just learning too, come up to me and say, thank you very much, Mr. Wood, for a nice, delicious meal that you have given us. We have tried different things, which we've tried new foods in our school this year, as of like doing apple and cream cheese wraps, mini waffles, salsa and mini pitas, bananas with honey and cream cheese wraps. Our major staples are fruit, milk, mini muffins in assorted flavors, rice rolls, carrots, celery, fresh vegetables, Melba toast, breadsticks, and mini wheat bagels, laughing cow cheese, and cheese strings. We do have a list of allergies that we try to attempt to stay away from. We had, in the past, we had a student who was restricted, had a really bad restricted diet. We worked with the parents and the child to make sure that he got something that he could eat every day. He had his own little container, which he liked. This year, as I mentioned, we tried to include different foods that appeal to other cultures. We've also opened suggestions from students and parents with the sending home of the donation request forms. There's a space that they can fill out. Our program is fortunate enough to have much support by the teachers, the parents, and the community. I would say the biggest challenge that we're finding is sometimes we get our bins back with some food left over, stuff that we cannot send back out to the children. We've asked the students and the teachers, reasons why we might be getting some of this back. A lot of them are saying that they're just full or they're not hungry. Occasionally, they sometimes say they don't like the offering that we give them. In closing, I just want to say to you guys, in closing, as I hope you can see that the program that was brought is positive things to our school and greatly deserves continuous support from you guys. I thank you very much, and I hope you guys can still consider supporting us.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilor Pasternak, any questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. All this talk about food is making me hungry. Maybe we should have an early dinner break.
Is that it? Is that the best you can do?
I'm still working on my
I have questions.
act. No, I do have.
Oh,
I
okay.
do have. When you ask for the parent contribution, how much is that, and is there a high participation rate?
We can see maybe $25, $50, depends on what the parent wants to hand in to us. And yes, we do get a good turnaround from it.
Mm-hmm. And that's topped up by the City of Toronto. Are there other sources of funding for your program?
The only one we had, the other one is the Ontario Ministry of Children and Youth Services.
And are you currently meeting your needs, or there's always?
There's always room for more.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you.
You indicated you've got about 500 children at this school.
Yes.
So that's probably 350 to 400 families. Would that be about right? And you ask for a small donation from the families. What's the scope of the donation or the contribution to the program?
Sorry,
What's the amount?
depends on what they want to give us. We don't ask, we just ask if they want to, like, some parents will give us something. Sometimes it could be amount of $5, could be amount of $25.
Is that every term?
We do it every term. That's in the fall, winter, and spring. But basically what we do is anybody who's given us a good donation, we will not ask them to resubmit again.
So out of 350 to 400 families, how many of those would be of low income?
That I honestly couldn't really tell you, sir.
Okay. Because the one comment you said is that food is not eaten, so presumably of the 500 children, a number are coming to school having been fed at home,
Yes,
given a proper breakfast,
yes.
and thus the food is not eaten sometimes.
What we basically get back from the teachers and some of the students is some of them are, like you say, have been fed at home and they don't feel like having anything else, or it could be sometimes they don't like what we've given out.
Could you hazard a guess as to the number of students in the school that are coming to school having not been given a proper breakfast?
I would say maybe less than a third.
Okay. All right, good. Okay, well, thank you for your time today.
Yep.
Appreciate it. All right.
Thank you.
Next, I have Zanat Moradinia. Is Zanat here? No. All right. She's not. All right, so then, is there anyone else who wishes to make a deputation and speak and offer any commentary? No? Do we have a motion? Councillor Pasternak. So that
Yeah.
concludes our meeting. Just before we formally conclude it with a motion from Councillor Pasternak, I'll just ask the mayor if you wanted to make any comment, or the mayor has been attended the deputations in downtown Toronto yesterday afternoon. He was at the Etobicoke Civic Centre last evening, and thank you for coming here up to North York this afternoon. Thank you, Mayor Tory. Councillor Pasternak.
That the Budget Subcommittee for Etobicoke, York, and North York Civic Center's consultation receive for information the public presentations and the communications submitted by members of the public.
So moved. All in favor? Okay, thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you very much for coming out today and
Yes, thank you all for
offering
coming
your
out.
views and comments.
It's the best news I've gotten all day.
So, how come you were late? Did you have to drive your wife home?
I had to drive her home.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, you know what, I should have called. I got your messages once they got here.
I was in a panic state. I think I'm going to have to stay till 6 o'clock. I'm just kidding. I had good faith in your...
No, I was gonna make, I would have told you earlier if I wasn't gonna come. I'm surprised Justin didn't come.
You know, he said that he's pretty sick, like he's got laryngitis, and so.
No, I'm not trying to be critical. I just,
Jackie let me know earlier today that he wasn't coming.
yeah.
So. What's that? We're moving forward or no?